Okay, so welcome, grade nines. I know this is a very strange way to do this, but yeah, I hope that you guys do enjoy the lesson. So you guys can do this in the space of these next 2 days. Just make sure that the work is done by Monday. So even if you want to take the weekend to just make sure that you understand, that's perfectly fine. So remember, this will be in your class test next week. So you've got a cycle test which you guys should have been studying for already. And then you've got a short class test, 10 marks just on this. So if you listen, you don't even have to study as long as you do listen. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to start with ratios. Okay, so your heading will be ratios, your date will be whichever date that you do this on. So we use ratios to compare quantities of the same units. Okay, so for instance, like we would compare liters. So if there's 20 liters in this container and 50 liters in this container, or there's so many females and so many males. Okay, so how we write this is we take our quantity in A and we compare it to our quantity in B. Okay, so if we take, for example, if I've got, these are apples, right? And then I've got oranges. Okay, so with my apples and oranges, so I know that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 apples, so if we're comparing apples to oranges, so they're both fruit. I've got 6 apples, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 oranges, right? Okay, so I write the ratio like that. But we go a step further, right? Because we need to simplify. So we always need to simplify. And if we look at these to simplify, just by looking at them, I can see I've got 2 apples for every 3 oranges. Okay. So I know that it's 2 is to 3. But to do this easier, what we do is we find the highest common factor and we divide it by that. So between 6 and 9, our highest common factor is 3. Okay, so I'm going to divide this by 3 and divide this by 3 to get the simplified form. So then I've got 3 apples to, not 3 apples, sorry. I've got 2 apples to 3 oranges. Okay, so I know for every 2 apples, I have 3 oranges, and that's what we use ratios for. Okay, to see how many compared to each quantity I have. Okay, obviously feel free to pause whenever you need to take things down. Okay, so let's do an example. So this will be example 1. So say now I've got 30 milliliters of red, 18 milliliters of yellow, and 12 milliliters of blue dye are mixed into 10 liters of white paint to get the right color. Calculate the ratio of red, yellow, and blue dye Sorry. In its simplest form. Okay. All right. So the first thing I do is I always tell the person reading my work what I'm comparing. So I don't just automatically go into numbers. I first have to tell them what am I comparing. Okay. I'm comparing red to yellow to blue. All right. Okay. So I know I've got 30 milliliters of red, 18 milliliters of yellow, and 12 milliliters of blue. Okay, and this isn't in its simplest form. I need to find the highest common factor and divide each one by that. Okay, so in this one, just by looking at it, I think my highest common factor is 3. So 3 goes into each of them. Okay, then I get 10. Okay, 3 goes into 18 6 times, and then 3 goes into 12 4 times. And now I see, no, actually, it can be simplified even more because it can go twice. Okay, so 2 can be my highest common factor. So that will be 5, 3, and 2. And now I know it's in my simplest form. Okay, if you were looking at this initially and thinking, no, you can actually do 6. Okay, so if we go from the start, and I'm looking at my highest common factor and I say, okay, my highest common factor is 6, then it would be 5. 6 goes into 18, 6, 12, 18, so 3 and 2. Okay, so then I've just skipped one of those steps. So as long as you make sure that it's in its simplest form by the time that you get to the end. Okay, let's do another example. Okay, Kelly, Jane, and Cebu share a profit. From their business in the ratio 1 to 2 to 3. Their profit for last year was 120,000. Calculate how much each received. Okay, so this is a bit different because we are sharing something between the ratios. So in the beginning, we had to give the ratio and we had to give it in its simplest form. This time around, they are asking us to share a certain amount between the ratios. Okay, so if we look at this ratio, so 1 is to 2 is to 3. So one portion of the profit goes to Kelly. Okay, Kelly. 2 portions of the profit go to Jane. And then 3 portions of the profit go to Cebu. Right? Okay. So now if we look at this, how are we going to share 120,000 Rand and make sure that each person has their own portion? So the first thing is that I count up all these portions together. So I know that it's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 portions. Okay, and I'm going to share it amongst the 6 portions and then give each one their fair share. Okay, so I know that Kelly, let's start with Kelly, she gets 1 out of the 6 portions. So she only got 1 out of all 6 portions. Okay, so she got a sixth of the 120,000 Rand. Okay, so a sixth of that 120,000 rand, right? 1 second while I get my calculator. Okay, so if I go in my calculator, 1/6 times 120,000, I get 20,000 rand. Okay, so Kelly gets 20,000 rand. If I look at Jane, Jane gets 2 out of the 6 portions of the 120,000 rand. Okay, so if I put that into my calculator, I get 40,000. And then Sivu, if I go 3 out of the 6 of the 120,000 rand, he's going to get 60,000 rand. So I've sectioned it out nicely according to their ratios, because if I add all these together, it's going to give me 120,000. So I've given 20,000 to Kelly, I've given 40,000 to Jane, and I've given 60,000 to Sivu because it goes along with their ratios, right? Okay, at this point, you guys are going to do an exercise for ratios. Okay, I'm going to carry on at the video for rate. And then after that, I'm going to do proportion. So you can pause and do the activity. So there will be a worksheet, and then you can carry on with the video once you are done. All right. So I'm going to now go ahead and do rate. Okay. All right. So with rate, we use it to compare different quantities. Sorry, I spelled that wrong. Okay, different quantities, okay, or quantities of different units. Let's just rearrange this. Sorry, my different units. Okay, so for example, we compare with cars, we say they go 100 kilometers per hour. Okay, so we're comparing kilometers and hours. Or we say kilometer per liter, so kiloliter per liter. Or we say rands per pound, right? We can get 20 rand per 1 pound or something like that. We also say percentage per annum. So we're comparing the percentage with regards to the year, right? Okay, so let's have a look at an example of how we do this. Okay, so in a science experiment, the temperature increased from 12 degrees Celsius to 77 degrees Celsius in 5 minutes. Calculate the rate of temperature increase per minute. All right, so this one we're looking at the rate, and we're looking at the rate of the temperature increase per minute. So at this stage we are comparing the increase, so in the temperature, so degrees Celsius, and that's why it's a bit different. okay? And we compare it to the minutes that go by, right? So it's different units, okay? So if we look at this, we need to calculate how much the temperature rises every minute. We increase the temperature over the total time period. So we increased it from 12 to 77. So let's find out how much that is. I'm going to do this in a different color. So we increased it. Okay, if we go 77 minus 12, we're going to get 65 degrees Celsius. So this went from it went from 12 degrees to 77. So it increased by 65 degrees Celsius, right? In a period of 5 minutes. Okay, so let's work out how much it is per minute, right? So what I like to do is put it as a fraction. So I know that it was 65 degrees Celsius that happened in 5 minutes. Okay, I want to find out what is the rate of temperature increase. So let's make this x degrees Celsius, the increase for 1 minute. Okay, and then I cross cancel. So I go 65 times 1 minute, so that's just 65 degrees Celsius, is equal to 5 times x, so 5x. Okay, I want to get x by itself because I'm trying to find out the degrees. So divide by 5, divide by 5. So if I go 65 divide by 5, I'm going to get 13 degrees Celsius. So I know it's increasing by 13 degrees Celsius per minute, right? This line here, this fraction line, basically is telling us per, right? So it was 65 degrees Celsius per 5 minutes. It happened every 5 minutes. Okay, let's look at another one. Okay. All right, so a car travels 180 kilometers from Moy River. It takes the driver 4 hours. Determine the average speed in kilometers per hour. So they want to know kilometers per hour, right, for the average speed. So let's have a look at how we can work this out. Okay, so we know that it took the driver 4 hours to go 180 kilometers. So 180 kilometers in 4 hours. They want to know per hour, so for 1 hour, how many kilometers is the speed per hour. Okay, so I cross multiply and I get 180 kilometers times 1 equals 4 times x is 4x. Okay, so 180 divided by 4, so you're going to get 45 kilometers. So that means the car is going 45 kilometers per hour. Right.